Are you someone that's stuck in the corporate world, stuck in a job that you literally just, it's not really fulfilling you anymore, and you have a burning desire to either go on your own or go in to another career and build your own business? Then I really suggest that you give this episode a listen, because Laura really does explore so many avenues and, you know, how long it actually took her to get off the ground. So it really gives an insight into that self-doubt, that self-sabotage that we all speak to ourselves in, and how we can use that as our power to move ourselves forward and actually get a business off the ground. So if you know anyone that would really, you know, enjoy watching this episode, please welcome, obviously, Laura to Blank Canvas. Obviously, a space where we talk about people's journeys, changes they've had. And obviously, I know yourself have had quite a big change recently, but obviously for the audience at the minute that don't really know you, obviously just say a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome.
I can't believe I'm here. So I'm a family lawyer. So I do divorce, finances, prenups, all that, and private children stuff. And I've worked for a number of firms over the years, big, small. But earlier this year, or late last year, I should say, I decided that I was going to leave the corporate world, took the jump, and made the jump, and opened my own firm. So we started trading the first week of March. It's just me, but yeah. So I've opened my own firm, having been at a big international corporate firm for a lot of years prior to that. So yeah.
That's scary. So that is quite a big jump. So like, if you've seen them like memes where you see the fish jumping out the water and stuff, it literally is like that, isn't it? Really. What made you want to change then and take that big jump? What was it? Was it like one point, or was it multiple things?
It had been an idea that had been there since the beginning. I have to be honest about that. And there were times where I didn't think I'd do it, and there were times that I did. But in the process of opening my own firm, obviously I had to go through some of my emails to get some documents and things like that. Yeah. And there was an email pinned to the top of my Outlook, my like old Outlook, you know, the one with the embarrassing name or whatever.
We've all got one of them, don't worry.
The old Hotmail,
the
Hotmail
account one,
And there was an email pinned there from 11 years ago whilst I was still at university, and it was an email to a guy who owned his own firm that I'd met at a school, a university school fair, careers fair. Yeah, and he ultimately ended up being the first person I worked for. He was my first job. And it said, I really want to own my own firm like you. What advice do you have? Is it still right that you have to be 3 years qualified, etc.? So 11 years ago, I'd sent that email. Wow. He'd replied. I'd pinned this email to the top of my inbox. And then I never really thought about it really again until last year. But yeah, so I worked for a small firm, and then obviously went to the big corporate world. Yeah. And I think as you get older, I started to think, and people around you kind of start to go through divorce or whatever. Well, it's more my husband's friends. He's a bit older than me. Mine are still all my friends are still getting married. His friends are the ones getting divorced now. Yeah. And I would think, gosh, what would I want? What would I want in terms of experience, in terms of firm? And I was kind of thinking, not really what I'm offering. And that's not a criticism. They have absolutely, that particular firm have absolutely catered to their perfect client. They don't need the support. They don't, because they don't want it, because they're busy corporate people who, you know, don't bother me with 5 emails when you can say it in 1. And I've already got an IFA, and I've already got a mortgage broker. Don't bother me with all of that. And that works perfectly. But I thought I wouldn't want to be in this corporate environment, and I wouldn't want to not have my hand held every kind of step of the way, in a more supportive way.
It's a more supportive, more personal role, isn't it? And I suppose like you've seen sort of, it's almost like a little bit of a niche. So it's like you're taking the care element out. Sorry, not that they're not taking the care element out. No. You're putting that in. Yes. Because like you're saying from your perspective, what is it you would want? And you didn't really see that was there, which I think is quite an amazing thing to look at it like that. Because like you say, it's quite a a traumatic thing. It's almost like, especially if you're going through a divorce. I mean, I've not been married, I'm not divorced myself, but I could imagine it's almost like a stage of grief. Like a breakup is a stage of grief, and it is a big thing to go through. So I think that is something that obviously that's very unique then, that you're sort of there, as you say, holding somebody's hand through that process.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can give them that support that I suppose their family members around them probably, they can be there for them, but I suppose you can be for them from that legal arm point and be that other one that they can probably vent to, I would imagine.
Exactly.
I can imagine they'd be like venting.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a holistic kind of offering. But, it's one of the only situations that it's socially acceptable to sit across from a stranger and say, right, how much is on your credit cards? What's your pension worth? What's your house worth?
Crazy.
That you wouldn't ask your best friend, and then to top it off, what's happened, what's gone wrong in your marriage. You wouldn't have those conversations with your best friend probably, and so I wouldn't want to have had those in the environment. In a corporate environment, and I live on the Wirral, and I was looking around at local firms. In terms of where is it that I would go, and there are obviously pockets of really affluent people on the Wirral, and the kind of thing that tipped me over the edge was that there was a local couple, and they were well known, and she'd gone to a corporate firm, and I thought, why?
Bless. Yeah.
Because I know you're a really local person. You would want your hand held. You wouldn't want to walk into this environment. Why? And I kind of looked up and I thought, because it doesn't exist. Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's not here. And she may well have always done it, don't get me wrong, but I just thought, and that's what people have said to me, people who are still in the corporate world. What are you going to do about this competition? What are you going to do about that competition? And I say to them, well, it's not about competition. The work is out there. There's always enough work to go around, for good or for bad. And I'm not trying to take people from the firms that are right for them. If that firm is right for that client, that's who they should be with. They absolutely 100%. Should be with that person, having that conversation. It's so personal that all I want to do is give another option. I just want to give another option on the table for people to choose from. And if I'm not right for them, actually, I don't want to convince them to come to me. I want them to go to who's right for them, because it's so personal. And so that's
I feel like with what you're saying there, you're quite aligned with your purpose and passion there. So you're not just your stereotypical lawyer. You've literally really thought about what you want to offer that person. And like you say, like, I just didn't even think with what you were mentioning then, like, you happen to literally warts and all tell them what's on your credit cards, what's this. You don't realise how personal that process is. Like, it's something like you just said then, I'm like, oh God, it's not something I've thought of. But when you're saying it, like, oh my goodness, like, you literally are airing your whole dirty laundry, aren't you, really?
Absolutely.
Like, you're like, wow.
The only area of law that you have to know everything about a person. You have to know where they work, how long they've worked there for, what they earn, what's the pension worth, what do they have on the credit cards, where do they live, what's the mortgage. In every other area of law, you think, right, okay, well, you've come from an employment, bit of employment advice. Tell me about that. You don't have to know everything about their life, about their children, about their family makeup, about it all. And so you do absolutely have to find the person that's right for you. And that's what I want to do. And I think that what goes alongside that I've really tried to do is to build a network of people to then bring into the team.
100%.
And that's not one IFA, it's not one mortgage broker, it's not one estate agent. It's a team, and I will pick the people that I think are right for your team based on who you are, your personality, that particular client. And we can choose them together, and we'll see them together, versus me saying, oh yeah, by X date I need you to go and get a mortgage capacity report, off you go. Well, if somebody said that to me, well, I wouldn't know, but if somebody said to just a random person, off you go, the first thing you'd do is you'd have to Google it, local mortgage brokers near me, what do I need? It's more about, this is how we guide you as a team through this really difficult time, actually. And how do we make every decision aligned with what your goals actually are? And that's not just a legal question, that's a question in terms of finance, in terms of on the ground. Every decision needs to move you either towards your goals or away from it, and we need everybody to be kind of aligned and on the same team in order to do that. And that's what I also wanted to do, was to create this kind of team of people that we could bring in so that we're all moving forward for that.
And I think that's amazing. Like you're saying, you're bringing a team of people together. And I think if businesses operated a little bit more with authenticity, they really did stick to their morals and values. Like, I do think that there would be, not slating every business, but there will be better businesses if you knew why you went into it, what your purpose was. Like we were mentioning, obviously, before we started recording. Now, we've got businesses, and we've got, obviously, as you know, I've got a property company with my business partner, and there are sites that we manage that, you know, if they don't align with you and we're not the right fit, it's okay to say no.
Exactly.
And I just think more people need to really do that in life.
Absolutely. I was in all aspects of life.
It's a no from me.
It's a no
That's
from
the
me
negative
too.
Nellies as well.
You've got the power to choose.
Yeah, exactly.
But absolutely, and I've had this kind of conversation as I've gone through this process in terms of, you know, keeping it very client focused, keeping it based on their experience. You know, I've had ladies come in and they've said, oh, this is an actual quote from one of my current clients, and she's, it's like a spa in here. And that's what I want it to feel like. I want it to feel it's already the most difficult time of your life. Yeah. And if I come away from that with having not added to that, then I'm okay with that. Yeah. Versus there were times when people would say, God, I dread getting an email from you. And I would think, well, yeah, you will. But and I'm never going to be anybody's favourite person to speak to. Nobody's ever going to want to come.
Well, like I say, you're not going to be everybody's favourite cup of tea
either.
Yeah.
But and as I say, I've had this kind of conversation and this thought process of, surely everyone started out like this. Surely every firm or every business, surely you did it with the intention of wanting to please your clients and wanting it to be about them. And I say to my husband, please tell me if you think I'm like, you know.
If you go off track. 10 years down the line, you're back in the corporate world.
This isn't what it was about. And it's not about, you know, growth for growth's sake. It's not about, you know, metrics and money. Obviously, business is business, and you have to be able to keep the lights on. But you can do that in a way that doesn't necessarily eke every ounce out of people. And I think that's the difference. That's the difference.
I think that is a big difference, and it is knowing that you're not going to appeal to every single person, like you say, like,
and being okay with that.
And that's it, isn't it? I mean, you probably won't know this about me. I had a business many years ago. I had a bridal shop, and it's the same. Like, sell wedding dresses, I know, property, wedding dresses, bit of everything. Divorce, and when I had the wedding dress shop, like, I knew my niche, I knew my type of brides. I didn't stock every single type of dress because I didn't want it like that. Like you say, when they used to come in, like, obviously amazing that they come into yours and it was like spa. They used to come in and it was like a home. They'd say, like, I'd have like little afternoon tea. I mean, I didn't do obviously sandwiches. I'd like have little cakes on the traditional tea stands. I'd have like champagne. They'd have exclusive appointments. And people did say to me at the time, they were like, I remember meeting a lady who is a friend. She had a bridal shop down in Bath. And she was like, oh, I think you need to go, cater for sort of everybody. So you're covering most brides, and appointment times, you're doing longer. You're not going to sell as many. And I was like, no, it's longer appointment times. They get exclusive use of the shop. They don't have somebody else trying on in the second changing room, because it was that type of personal service. You're not going to appeal to every single bride. And when a bride or customer come in, to be honest, I knew instantly from the venue whether I had the dress. And then there was some people and I was like, I haven't got your dress, sorry. And then, some of them were like, come in, they're like, lovely dresses, but there's nothing here for me. And that's absolutely fine. And then they would then send their friends in that maybe it was their style. And I just think when you are living in your authentic self and you are aligned with your business, abundance 100%. Does flow to you. 100%. So I'm a bit of a university.
Me too.
I was going to say,
I'm massively a
bit woo-woo. Sorry, not university, universe.
Yeah, me too.
And you mentioned obviously something earlier in relation to that with obviously the email you'd pinned. Yes. So do you believe you put that out there to the universe then 100%. And it's just come back? Do you feel like it was the right time then, 11 years?
So there's a bit of a convoluted story.
Go on.
I'll tell it. Sorry, I'm going to surpass to be the longest person.
Go on.
God.
I've got my coffee, it's fine.
There's a bit of a convoluted story which I do genuinely believe that this was the right time. So we were going on a dog walk. Yeah. Not a dog walk we would always do.
Okay.
And I get a message on LinkedIn from a girl at a recruitment agency who actually the owner of the recruitment agency is the man I sent that email to.
Wow.
So I thought, I wonder if it's him reaching out, because all this time ago, Ben, my husband, I did send him this email and he did say, maybe one day we'll go in together. And,
okay.
And I thought, maybe he's reaching out to me. It's really odd that she's messaged me. It's not somebody that would ever message me. So I say this out loud. We get out of the car and there's this man coming towards us with his dog. And there's a big group of them, and he was smoking a cigar, actually, which like caught our attention, and he had this beagle with him.
It's a bit of a strange one, though. Sorry, it's like a cigar. Okay.
But got
Each
my
to their
attention.
own.
I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, interesting. And it's like 5:30 or something in the afternoon. And he comments on my dog. And I thought, come on, Ben, I don't want to chat. I just want to get this dog walk over and done with. I've got no makeup on. I've worked from home all day. I just want to get this like job out of the way so we can go home and get some tea. And he says something about the dog, and Ben's like, oh, yeah, well, he's a long-haired Dachshund Cooper. He's gorgeous.
I'll be honest, I've no idea. Dogs. I can imagine it's cute.
He's gorgeous. He's gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not of a cat person. I wouldn't have a clue what type of dog.
I'm not really a dog person, but just a Cooper person. Okay. But he's gorgeous. And so he says, the man says, oh, I'm a lawyer. I know somebody with a dog like that, and takes him into court. And Ben said, oh, Laura's a lawyer. And he says, what type of law do you do? And Ben says, oh, she's a family lawyer. And he says, I'm looking for a family lawyer.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, right, interesting. All very weird, all very strange. He says, I'm looking for a head of family, actually.
Oh.
I said, oh, right. He said, add me on LinkedIn. So I add him on LinkedIn. He said, so he messages me the next day and he says, I was serious about being my head of family. I want to retire. Come and speak to me.
Oh, wow.
So I went to his office and I said, it was clear it wasn't for me. It was clear it wasn't the right role. It wasn't the right time. There was lots of questions I had.
Yeah.
But I did go and see him and we had a chat. And the first lady I worked for, in terms of like in the small firm, she had her own firm and she'd always been a bit of an inspiration for all of this as well. She'd done a very similar thing. She'd approached an older guy. He'd invested in what she wanted to do. It was a bit of a similar setup. And we didn't necessarily part on the best of terms, actually, when I left her.
Oh, okay.
But time had passed. Lots of time had passed. And I thought, if anybody knows whether I should do this or not, because it's all very weird how I had the conversation about going in with somebody, with this guy. Yeah. Then on that same day, on that same journey, on that same dog walk, another guy's asked me to go in with him. I was like, is the universe pointing towards me or not? I don't know. It is,
yeah. I say they send you 3 signs.
Well,
one's a bit of a hello, one's a bit of a slight nudge, and then the other one's a bit of a push you off a cliff.
We're doing this. Get on board. So I thought, if anybody's going to know if this is a good idea, it's going to be her. And I thought, I'll message her, and if she doesn't reply, she doesn't reply. I've got nothing to lose here. So I messaged her and she said, yeah, come and see me. We'll have a chat about it. So I thought, right, okay. So we went and had a chat with her. And she gave me some really good advice, really good pointers. This is what I'd be worried about if I were you. This is the experience I've had over the years. And then she said, and I said, well, this is my idea. I think there is a space for what you've done, because it was very similar to the model. My model is very similar to what she's done in the Manchester market. I said, there is space for your model on the Wirral. I promise you, it will work. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, yeah, I always think about that. And I said, well, do you want to do it with me?
Oh, wow. No.
So she says, leave it with me, because she's still with this business partner.
Yeah.
He's part of the whole conversation. He has to be. She says, leave it with me. So she goes away. She speaks to him. She comes back to me and she says, I want to do it with you. I really do. But I'm due to take over this business from these guys in April. You'll have to wait till then.
Wow.
I said, right, okay. So in all this, and I made, looked into like fee share and all of that. And it wasn't the right thing. So one day, we've gone through all this rigmarole of setting up with all these various different people. And Ben just turns to me one day and he says, we'll just do it.
Aww.
And we'd got so far in the whole process that actually I was like, do you know what? And we'd found an office and we were like, and I'd sent her the office, this is what I want to do. And she was like, yeah, just leave it with me. I'm talking to him. So had I never got the message and then seen the guy and then spoke to her and then found the office, none of it would have happened. I guarantee none of it would have happened. So it was a very kind of convoluted way of the universe definitely guiding me to what it was that I needed to do. And working for her, you know, was very, very different to working in a corporate environment. And again, that's what I've kind of tried to mesh together.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I've added the kind of personal
touch to it. That's
it.
amazing. So
I know.
I do think that's an amazing story because I am a bit woo-woo and I do believe.
No, I totally believe in it all.
Yeah, the universe definitely does send you signs. Like
exactly.
For you then, did you feel like, because there's an element you've betted on yourself there and your husband's betted on you. And I think sometimes people are so scared that they don't have that self-belief inside them. And then you've had like 3 points there where that self-belief was reinforced and it was reinforced. And then that last one, because like you mentioned, obviously the relationship, to get that nod of approval from that lady, you know, was probably
huge.
A big thing, isn't it?
Huge.
And sometimes we just need that. And not, like I say, the universe gives you the 3 signs. You know, it's a little push, then it's a nudge, and then it's a push off a cliff. And that was probably your third one, to be like, come on, guys, what else do you need?
100%.
It's amazing. Obviously, your husband was really supportive. Has he been supportive since day one?
Massively.
Yeah.
There were 4 actually, because when I was having that conversation with her, we were outside and a bird pooed on me. So I'm just saying. And I said out loud then, I said, that's the universe. I said,
that's it now.
That's it now.
Thank you for that. There's the deal. Sealed the deal. The shit show is here now. Thank you, literally.
Literally. He has been so supportive. He's always been supportive in whatever I wanted to do. But I always say to him, I believe in the idea. And I would never have asked him or even contemplated the conversation if I didn't truly believe in the idea. I do genuinely think that it's a good idea. I think it comes from the right place. And I think he sees that. Because we would always talk about, he's very... He works for his dad. He's never worked in a corporate environment. He kind of doesn't understand the corporate world, in that I would say, you know, I've got my appraisal tomorrow. And he would say, just tell me you're not doing it. It's ridiculous.
Sorry, it doesn't work like that, guys. I know my partner's not in the corporate world and he doesn't get it. Yeah, it's totally different modalities.
And, you know, we would, I need to tick off that I've done, 3 LinkedIn posts or whatever. And he would be like, but it's stupid. Well, we would have conversations, and it kind of grew from this as well, really, that I said, there's a yoga class tomorrow, that's a bit of a networking type thing. You go for breakfast after, and I say, that would be such a good thing for me to get into the Wirral market by doing this, but I can't do it because I've got to work for this corporate company. So he's always been open to doing things in a different way, in a not corporate way, and he saw my ideas and believed in them. He is absolutely the person that deserves the credit for the offices. He's a fabulous kind of interior. You wouldn't believe it, but he's got a beautiful interior eye. He's done all of the work in the office. He's set it all up. He's been so supportive. But I think because he sees that I do believe in the idea, and he also believes that it will work. He was like, and he is a person that is, I'm far more risk averse than him. So when he said, why don't we just do it ourselves? I was like,
so there's your 4th nudge then.
Exactly.
There's your 4th nudge, because sometimes it's hard, isn't it, you can see it, but obviously, especially your partner can be a tricky one. I mean, I call them positive Pollies and negative Nellies. Did you have any negative Nellies?
Lots.
Did you have people that were like, I think you're a bit ridiculous to go and jump out of a corporate job? Because you do get so many people like, you're secure in your job, you've got your pension, you've got nothing to worry about. And what they don't know is that you can get let go at any time. I think that's a false illusion that they tell you.
I do get it.
Yeah.
And I get it. And for a long time, that was what I wanted. Wanted the security. I wanted to climb the ladder. I wanted to, just churn. And I was happy for the years that I worked at that corporate. I was happy. Yeah. I was very happy. But I think I've discovered in this journey that the people who will say, well, what about this? Or, I could never do, the compliance aspect or whatever it might be. I feel so secure actually in the decision that I've made, which is really not like me, but I feel so secure in the decision that I've made that I can see it's almost them justifying it to themselves.
Yeah.
As to why they didn't do it. And that's fine. You can have not done it for loads of reasons. And I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it's right for you.
Yeah.
But it's almost the people that are trying to justify to themselves why they're staying in what it is that you know, I've maybe left. The people who have either done it themselves, well, the people, particularly women, who have done it themselves, are the most supportive people you'll ever meet. And I have been absolutely blown away, actually, by the amount of support that has been. People will reach out, people will support you, people will pump you up, and you don't realise it. Actually, you think, oh, you know, I know a couple of people, I'll be all right. But actually, the support that people will give you is unbelievable. There's a lady across the road from my firm who opened her firm. She's a family lawyer. So our firms literally are opposite each other. Yeah. And that was one of the people that people would say to me, are you not worried about her, that she's going to be offended, that she's going to worry that you're trying to come in and take them? I said, I'm not worried about her. Her clients are the right people for her. Exactly. The right clients for me. But because of that, I had built this particular thing up in my mind a bit. And I'd always felt a bit nervous about it. Easter weekend, WhatsApp message. I've been meaning to reach out to you for ages. I just want to say I'm like absolutely blown away by what you've done. Oh, wow, I've done it myself. So nice. Come in for a coffee. Anytime you've got a question, people just want to help you. Yeah. And it's the people who've done it, they absolutely just want to help
but you. But they do want to help because they've, like I say, you've been really there, they've done it, they've wore the T-shirt. So they know this, it is genuine, and it is the struggles that they know they've probably been through. And they know from day one of taking that jump is probably the scariest, because you go, what have I done? Why have I done this? Exactly. Am I going to get any clients? Oh my God. Exactly. Like, it is the most scariest thing that you can go through. But I mean, you know, like I said before, like with my business partner, she is actually in the audience. I'm not going to bring her on. It's okay. But it's like that jump. We had this conversation many times, and it's probably the best thing that she ever did. She'll probably say, no, it isn't. Oh, but it's the scariest thing that you can do. But like, it's all right coming from me, because I've had businesses before, and I can preach to to everybody, like, it's the best thing you've ever done. Yeah. But you've got to go through your own journey and go through your own thing. And I also say, it's not for everybody. So working for yourself isn't for everybody, and that's okay. Some people want to work in companies. It's not a problem. But I say to people, if you've got a desire and you've got this dream that you've got inside of you that you really want to explore, just go and speak to somebody, and really just know that the change can happen, and that there's many people, like you say, that can support you. And I think when you get them negative Nellies, I call them, and like, don't get me wrong, I'm not positive all the time. No, I'm negative sometimes. That is a lie if anyone says I was positive all the time. But equally, you've got to remember that when you're experiencing that negative backlash from people, it's just from their scarcity. Yeah. So it's because they're worried for you. And sometimes you get family members that really do love and support you, but they're just worried. Yeah. And then it can come across quite negative. And as I say to people, when you've got you've been quite strong in what you've said about your mission and your idea and your passion, your purpose, you can see that there was that niche. You're wearing a different set of glasses, I say. And when you're wearing them set of glasses, the other people can't see what you can see. And that's okay. But you've just got to keep continuing and really stay true to what you want to do. And I think it's amazing you've obviously had the support from your husband, because some people don't. Yeah. And, some people have nobody to support them, which, is quite trying. What would you say to people in the situation? Say like there's someone out there that's listening that is gone, really want to do this, want to take the jump from the corporate world, or they want to change career, or they just want to set up on their own like you've done, you've stayed in the same career. What would you say to them?
So there is a couple of things. The first thing that I would say is the thing you are most worried about, and in my personal experience, that was handing my notice in.
I mean, that's scary anyway. I think even when you go into another job, when you just hand your notice in, it's quite a scary thing, isn't it?
The sleepless nights, the tears about that one conversation that probably lasted 20 minutes. I was shaking. Yeah. I was crying. I was like, and it was all, the fear of that conversation was almost enough that I would never have done it.
Wow.
That's how bad it was. And now I look back and I think, oh my God, that was 20 minutes of my life. Look at how much has passed since then. So the thing that you are most worried about in 6 months' time, it won't even be something you ever remember or think about anymore. And the other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that, it's I think Anthony Hopkins said it. I think there's a video of him saying it, and he says, and I saw a video of him saying this years ago, and it's always stuck with me, and it's one of my favorite things, is today is the tomorrow that you were so worried about yesterday.
Wow, yeah.
And I just absolutely love that, because you can get so worried about tomorrow. It's going to come. The time's going to pass anyway. And so do you want to get 5 years down the line and look up and still be complaining about the things that you complain about today? Or do you want to look up and be able to say, you know, oh, well, I gave it a go. I've scratched the itch. It either worked or it didn't.
Exactly.
And that, for me, I would never have had the opportunity to do it again. I wanted to be able to say I'd given it a go for myself.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to say to myself, you gave it a go, and it either worked or it didn't.
And that's it, isn't it? Like, you can always
just
go
get another
back.
job.
You just
I just get a job.
Everyone's like, just get a job. And that's the thing. Like, what is the worst? Like you say,
what's the worst that can happen?
What's the worst that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen?
Exactly.
And to look at every eventuality. And like you say, the worst thing is, it doesn't work out. You go and get another job. It's not the end of the world. And, you know, and I think, like you say, the worry, people do worry. And they say, like, statistically, like 96% of what we worry about will never materialise. I think like 40% is the past we worry about 30% is the future. And I think only sort of like 4% is like actual things we need to do that, you know, you worry about, like when, you know, if you've got to pay a bill, well, that bill will need to be paid. Don't worry about it. Just get a plan of action. But the majority, like I say, a lot of people live in the past or they live in the future. And you're like, there is that thing called the present day. And like you say, given notice in and all that worry you've gone through, and it was 20 minutes of your life, but you've literally got how many years of your life left to live. And you think, wow, but I've been there. Like, you, even just giving a notice in,
isn't it?
You know, you're like,
isn't it the worst thing
why
ever?
do people, like, I look back on myself and think, why was I so stressed out about, like you say, like, I've been physically sick. Like, I wasn't physically sick, should say, but feeling nauseous. I remember the funniest one I ever gave in was I'd had the interview, and my partner at the time and his dad were in the car outside. It was it was for JLL, and basically it was on Castle Street, and we were going to fly out in the afternoon to Spain, and the interview was like at 10 o'clock or something in the morning, around that. And I interviewed, and then it was through a recruiter. So then the recruiter rang me in the airport. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, they're conscious that you are now going on a 2-week holiday.
Oh, no.
You then got to give in a 4-week notice period. So it would obviously be 6 weeks. So they want to offer you the job. And I was like, oh, okay, it's only been a few hours. And he was like, yeah, they want to offer you the job. And basically you're going to have to give your notice in.
No.
So yeah, I had to, well, I didn't, obviously like you having a nervous breakdown, so I had a wine, and I was like, oh yeah, gets to Spain, and I'm like, oh, I've got to, and it took me about 2-3 days to be honest to like get the courage,
100%,
you know, to like, you know, what I think it was like 25 at the time or something, 24, 25, and it was when I was working in Southport, and I had to like build the courage to phone him on holiday to give my notice in, and it was fine because like giving it in person's hard, but then I suppose you're like, I'm on holiday. I just done a runner for 2 weeks to Spain. Oh, and by the way, I've got a new job. See you later.
Sound of the pool in the background, but I won't be coming back.
But it didn't. I know, it would almost look like I'd done it on purpose. I'd waited to go on holiday. I hadn't waited to go on holiday. I literally was, honestly, as I interviewed on the way to the airport, and then literally I was through security, and I got the phone call from the recruiter. So I had to ring Mark and say, sorry, I've got to give my notice in now, because obviously they want me to start in. So I only actually worked 2 weeks notice because I was on holiday for 2 weeks.
It's all worked out you see, it all works out as it's supposed to. It really does. It really does. But as you say,
I think that's it. Like you say, it works out in the end. Like,
It
don't
always works
worry.
out. It always works out.
And things like when you think back on like really shit times, you might have to edit that one out. But when you look back on really bad times, and you think, God, I was never going to get out of that time, but you did. And I say that to people, like when you're in them situations, I know it is like you can be dead depressed and really down and really worried, but know that there will be light at that end of the tunnel.
100%.
And just to have faith and literally just take a day at a time.
100%.
Like, I think you have to take a day at a time and not really forward think too much to get yourself out of them situations.
I think it can be really overwhelming, actually. Yeah. It's a really overwhelming thing to do, to take that leap. And I think if you try and be perfect at everything, a perfect example of that really is, I was so nervous to do my first ever Instagram post. Yeah. Launching the company. I spent ages doing it. I was like, I'm so nervous. I'm not ready. Because I knew everyone would be looking and how's she doing? And I said, I sent that out. And I thought, oh, God, I wish I'd have done that a bit different. So then on the next one, I did it a bit different. Yeah. But now I've got 2 posts. And then on the next one, I thought, well, actually, it'd be better if I did it this way. And so I did it that way. And then by the time you've got 15, 16, 17, however many posts, actually, no one's looking at the first one going. Exactly. And it's just that you just need to do it. Because if you wait for the perfect post, the perfect time, the perfect whatever it
doesn't
might be,
exist.
it will never, ever happen.
It won't happen.
Never, ever happen.
And it doesn't exist.
No,
and I
doesn't.
don't think perfection, it's a disillusion. And I think that people need to get over that whole perfectionism, because it literally is like they say procrastination is a thief of joy. I think perfection is a thief of joy sometimes, because people live in that frame of like, oh, and like you say, over a post, no one's really you're probably looking at it more than the other person 100%. Is, and you're criticizing it more than they are.
100%.
Like, you just, like you say, you've got to learn from it. Like I say, life's a roller coaster. Exactly. It's not linear. It's not like one flat line. It's like there will be ups and downs. If you don't learn from your mistakes, you'll never grow. You know, and I do think
it's that ability that the next time, right, that's how I wanted it to be that time. Right, I'll do it this time. It's that ability, we were talking about 1%, you know, before. It's just the ability to move the needle every time. Yeah. And not get too caught up in what you've done wrong. But actually, you've got another opportunity. You've got another post. You've got another whatever. Yeah. To move forward, and it's taking those opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
And seeing that.
I think so. Yeah. In terms of like, obviously, like you saying about opportunities and the way, you know, perfectionism, would you say you were like that as a younger? So take yourself back to the younger Laura. What were you like as a kid? Like when you were like 10, 11, were you sort of that perfectionist then? Or were you like, because I was quite interested in how you are as a child to now.
As a child, I wouldn't have said I was a perfectionist. No. But also I was one of them, you know, I had loads of notebooks, but I'd never write in them in case it wasn't perfect. So I guess I was actually a bit of a perfectionist. I would never like put pen to paper on my fancy notebooks because I didn't want to ruin them.
I've been a bit like that. I do.
It's weird, isn't it?
Weirdly, I do have a lot of notepads,
but don't ever want to ruin them.
Yeah. I've got one, actually 2 notepads, and they're like still not in
that
them.
I've wasted out over the years because I've just never used them and I don't know where they are now, obviously. But so in that respect, I guess I was. But as a child, I wasn't sporty.
Oh no, I definitely
wasn't popular. I had terrible teeth, needed braces. I had, you know, puppy fat, all that. But I was quite clever. And it wasn't cool to be clever at all. Yeah. But I just was, you know, naturally. And you know, that's not to like blow my own trumpet or anything, you know, because then I got to A levels and I was like, oh my God, I have to now actually revise. Like, what do you mean? Like, I failed an exam. What does that even mean? Yeah. But I you know, I was from a very working class family. Like me and my mum. So it was just me and my mum, and she worked in like the fish and chip shop and the pub at the same time. Yeah. And we still couldn't afford like light bulbs or, you know, we were very working class, but I was a bit clever. And so I, in order to become a bit popular, I wasn't, but in order to kind of try and be popular, I became very chatty. Because I could finish my work in 5 minutes and then turn around and chat for 45. Yeah. And I tried to kind of be funny and be chatty, and that's then the persona that I guess just became a personality ultimately. But yeah, so in order to try and be cool, and because I was chatty and thought I was funny, every I went to a Catholic school and we did a lot of like religious education lessons. And so I started every week a debate with my RE teacher.
Oh, okay.
Every week, trying to be funny, trying to be cool, whatever. It was not cool. It's not cool, but...
It was at the time?
No, it was at the time.
Time.
People were laughing. And every week we had this debate about various things.
Yeah.
And he was the first person that one day he'd organised a barrister to come into school to talk to like the year 11s or whatever, and I must have been in year 8. And he pulls me aside from...
Oh, okay.
And he says, I think you should meet this barrister. Now,
wow.
Weird. Because I didn't know what a barrister was. I was like, what on earth is a barrister? And he was like, I think you should meet this barrister. This is what a barrister does, yada, yada, yada. And I went home and I was like, Mum, I've met a barrister. And she was like, Laura, you'd be a really good lawyer because all they do is talk. Yeah. And I was like, oh, amazing. And genuinely, there is no more to the story than that I then was like, oh my goodness, what's a barrister? Turns out it's actually a lot different than arguing with your RE teacher. I didn't actually become a barrister, I became a solicitor. But genuinely, again, that's where it all began. And it's just so strange how life genuinely does. And you might not love it at the time, you might not be having the best time at the time. I've worked for lots of people, I've worked in lots of different places, doing good and bad, but actually they all gave me something. They all gave me something that led me to where I am now, doing what I wanted to ultimately do. And so it's just interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, I love that. It's like I always say, it's a lesson or a blessing. Everything that you've gone through, you don't as you say, there's always something you can take away from it, even if it might have been a bit of a bad time or something
at the time. And at the time, I remember at points throughout my life genuinely thinking, I will never know happiness again. I am just so unhappy. And that applies to all aspects of relationships or work or whatever it might be. I genuinely felt at times, and I remember vividly thinking, I will never know happiness again. This is just it. This is just it now. I'm just so unhappy. And it's just not true. And I know it's hard. I know it's so hard at the time, but the time will pass. The time will pass, and you'll look back and you think, oh my goodness, what a blessing that was, really. That was supposed to happen to me. Actually.
And that's it, isn't it? I always think that. I always think of lessons like things that have happened in the past. I think, that was meant to have happened at that time. And I'm very thankful that I'm now where I am. And I do think, like you say, in terms of going obviously back to school with them things, you've obviously... It's amazing. Obviously, you've done your work quite quickly. You then became the chatterbox, and then you've obviously that's a skill. Like it is a skill to be, because some people can't have a conversation or like communicate, or and it is quite difficult for them.
No, it was very distracting for the other children. I'm sure, like terrible for the teachers because I was doing the work, but I was distracting everyone else.
They're like,
great,
come on now, Laura. It's amazing. Great. Your teachers seeing that in you, like before, obviously that seed was planted. What was there anything else that you wanted to do? Can you remember, like, is there anything from a child that you know your passions were, or your hobbies, or
not particularly? No. Not particularly. Though, like, I think there was one point that I told my mum I wanted to be a bus driver.
Okay.
And then I think I watched a TV program and then decided I want to be a zookeeper. Just typical stuff of seeing something and then being like, oh, that's what I want to do. But there was never before that. And from that point, then I became a bit obsessed. That's what I was going to do.
Obsessed with it then.
I was obsessed.
Because
I was obsessed.
Obviously, were you saying you were from a working class family? Did you feel like there was a pressure to get, I would say, a real job, like, a job where you made money and you were a success? What people deem as success.
Absolutely.
Is that 9-to-5 career job, and, you've got a label, next to your name. So did you feel that pressure of having to go into a career?
There was a huge amount of pressure on me actually to just get a job. From the second my national insurance number came through the post, you need to get a job now. And they weren't bothered what it was. So for the time I did my A-levels, probably part of the reason that I failed some of those exams, I went to college from Monday to Friday, and I worked in Home Bargains every Saturday and Sunday for 2 years.
Wow.
So for 2 years, I did nothing but go to college and then work at the weekend. So, there was a huge amount of pressure that, okay, you've got this dream, but you need to earn some money, actually. You just need to go out and get a job and earn you however many pounds an hour it was. and so that I was trying to balance those two worlds. I was trying to balance those two worlds of, you just got to get a job and get realistic and come on, let's go. And, they've been very supportive, obviously, but, there was no, it wasn't a family that, yes, you'll go off to university or medical school or wwhatever it might be, and we'll help you, in that respect. Obviously, they were very supportive. Cut that bit out where I was like, no, they're not supportive. But I did have to kind of appease them of I'll work, I'll bring money in, and that was quite hard actually to balance all of that. But
because it is, and I think people don't see that work and that hard graft that you've put in pre that, because a lot of people think, oh, if you've become a lawyer or a solicitor and gone into the law world, people think you're generally from money and you've had like this, the silver spoon or whatever it is. And, I'm not slating them people that have had an upbringing, not at all. But I think there's a certain element, like you say, you're in the real world. You've had to work hard. You've had to get the job. You've had to, juggle two sort of elements there, really. And you've not had that. It's not that you've not had support. You've had support, but you've had like emotional support. You've just not had the financial element.
There was no gateway or I'll introduce you to someone or they didn't know
it's pure hard work.
Yeah, they didn't know what a lawyer did any more than I did early on. There was no kind of introduction. Nobody had ever been to university. They didn't know what it would be like. I went here, so you'd like, there was none of that. You're finding your way on your own in that respect. And that, I think there is still an assumption, and it still goes on, obviously, that in order to be able to get into that world, that you have to have come from a certain background. But in order to do it, you kind of had to elbow your way.
Exactly, you do, and I think
be chatty,
and I think it's so hard for like kids. Like I've mentored children, from sort of underprivileged backgrounds and things like that, and people that are in care systems. And I'm always a big pusher. Like you literally can achieve anything you want, but it will be hard graft. You literally will have to do everything in your power to make that change. Anyone can go and sign on the dole and not do anything. That's your choice, but you've got to either make a decision, you're going to work for it, or you don't. And I think it's quite important to listen to the likes of yourself in your story to say that you can become a solicitor if you want to be.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be from a background, where you've been given it, and it's, as you say, it's not what you know, who you know, as my late mum used to say. And unfortunately that still does go on, and that's fine. That's their world, it's not a problem. But it's knowing that people can literally go, do you know what, actually do want to be a solicitor or want to be a doctor or something, and I can do that. It's just going to take you that little bit extra grit and determination. And you can do it. I mean, there's a lady who's recently passed away, Sue Wright, I don't know if you obviously her story's amazing, and she was obviously from the care background, and she was an amazing inspirational woman. I worked with her many years ago, and she was like, her story is, you're from a care home, you don't need to let that define your future. And I think it's so important that to get the message out there to other kids 100%. That they can do anything that they want to do. What would you say to a child then that's now in your position, sort of like at that point when you're a teenager? What would you say?
I would say it's so important to find the thing that you believe in, the thing you want to do, because that grit and determination and hard work will only come from something that you are genuinely passionate about. So whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever you want your future to look like, it's got to be something that you want to do. And that's it. And try it all if you've got to. Try it all. No one will care. And you'll get something from everything. I worked in Home Bargains and McDonald's. That's where I went. They gave me, elements that I have taken through all of my life. You might not love it at the time, but you'll be able to. Everything that you experience that you don't like is actually just telling you what it is that you do like.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that is a good way to look at it.
Everything you don't want is just telling you, and that again goes for all aspects of life. Well, I'm really unhappy in this relationship because of X, Y, and Z. Well, all that's teaching you is I like the opposite of that. So everything will guide you towards what it is that you should be doing. And as I say, try it all if you've got to, but you will I know people that have gone and done, architecture because it was expected of them and they're the most unhappy people that you would know. They've got, wonderful jobs. I'm sure they earn lots of money. That wasn't enough for me. I didn't want to earn loads of money in a job that I hated every day and dreaded Monday, and that eats into Sunday, the Sunday scaries,
Exactly.
Find what it is that you are passionate about. And the other thing is that I would say is don't be so hard on yourself. There's been loads of times throughout life, and I know that we all need a little bit of imposter syndrome to keep us on
moving.
the ground,
and
keep us grounded. But there's been loads of times where, I was given opportunities and I said yes to them. That's another thing. Say yes to every opportunity that you possibly can. And I was a bit like, I would look up and I'd be like, oh my God, how am I here? How am I here? You're in the room because you deserve to be. You are absolutely in the room because you deserve to be, and you've made it.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Thanks. I should be inspirational speaking. Maybe
you should be. That's your next one. Yeah, that is definitely next one. I'm going to put loads of captions on this, because it is amazing what you just said, though, is like, don't be so hard on yourself. No. I think so many people do beat themselves up.
Yeah.
And it's only you that is literally your internal critic, and you need to sort of stop. And like you say, take a pause and sort of be a bit like, be a bit like, okay, yeah, do you know what? Let's stop and look behind you and see how far you've come on that journey, and go, actually, do you know what? Give yourself a break and a bit of a pat on the back, to be honest. And I think more people should do that, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw something the other day, and it was like, if 2016 me could see me now, then they wouldn't believe it. And there's another one. Oh, I love a bit of TikTok. You can see where I spend all my free time, can't you? There's another one, and it's if 13-year-old you could see you now, she would think you're the coolest person ever. Yeah. And I just think that is, for me especially. Yeah. For me especially, I was so uncool and I was so nerdy, and I, and to think that she would look at me, she would think I was cool.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's enough. I can live for her. That for her.
Yeah. You can live for that.
Some of it's for her,
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because you've got to have gone on that journey, I think. And as you say, look back on yourself, like when you were 13, sort of 16, and as you say, 10 years ago, and that progress you've made. And it's like, do you know what? Actually, I've done all right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I do think, I mean, I was in the drama crowd and stuff when I was a bit older, like I did, and I do think there's a lot of things that shape you when you're in school and stuff like that. And at the time, you think, oh, goodness me. Yeah. And I do think, you just mentioned then, obviously, in relation to, people that have chose careers that they've been sort of pushed in or coerced into, and they've gone for the money or they've gone for the title. And I do think it's quite important for people who are listening to sort of know, find what, like you say, what is your passion and what you love to do. Because money, if you chase the money, I just feel it's the wrong thing to chase, because when you chase your dream and what you're passionate about, the money will follow.
The money will always come.
It will always follow.
It will.
And it's what gets you out of bed, because you'll end up getting to your 40s and your 50s, hitting a brick wall and going, shit, why did I choose that? Because that was not actually what I wanted to do.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh. And as I say, if you want to change, I've interviewed people that have changed careers in the 40s, and, people that are in the 50s that are changing their careers. You're not a tree, you're not stuck. You can move. You're allowed to change. And if anyone says that you can't, ignore them and just put them in the negative Nelly box.
Yes, we don't listen to them here.
Yeah, exactly. But no, honestly, that was amazing. So I think there's been a lot of key points there that people will take home. To be honest, Laura, I think it was absolutely amazing.
I hope
I'm absolutely gutted, because I normally do ask every guest to complete in my book, and I've left it in my car.
Don't worry.
I know. So
it's an excuse for us to do it.
We'll do it again, and I will get you to write in the book. Basically, it's just a bit of advice and a bit of wisdom to pass on to the next guest. So I will definitely get you to. We'll grab a coffee or a wine, and we will definitely get you to finish to obviously put something in it. So Noah, thank you, amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Obviously anybody obviously that would be interested in anything that you're offering. Obviously, if you want to put a message to where they can find your details, what's your website or your your LinkedIn profile.
So I've got a LinkedIn. Although, it's not my favourite LinkedIn,
Oh, don't
isn't
get me
it?
started on LinkedIn.
I knew we've discussed this before.
Yeah, it's a no from me,
We've
guys.
talked about this
If anyone sends me a
before.
LinkedIn message,
It's only because you said LinkedIn, actually.
yeah,
and I was
sorry,
like,
I
oh,
have
yeah,
to say
should
it because it's a business thing.
Yes.
If you want me,
I
do
am
not.
on it.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, if
Profile.
anyone messages me on LinkedIn, you're going to get a reply in 10 years' time.
But yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the website is hiltonspence.com.
Yeah.
And we're on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Although Instagram's probably the best one to look at.
Yeah.
All those posts that I've been talking about. And yeah, that's where I am.
Okay,
Come
amazing. We'll
find
put
me.
them all obviously in the show notes
Thank
anyway,
you so
they'll all be on there
much.
for you. So yeah, and obviously amazing that you've launched this year, and I wish
Thank
you
you
all the
very
success.
much. No, thank
I
you
have a
very
feeling
much.
you will be very, very successful.
It's, seeing people like you and those that we know doing it first, having paved the way, that makes it so it makes it less scary.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and if life wasn't scary, it would be boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're here for a good time.
As Mum would say, yeah, you're here for a good time, not a long time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so yeah. Oh, amazing. No, so thank you.
No, thank you very much.
It really does mean the world to me that you like and subscribe this channel. It is a mission of mine that I want to get out there. So thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a lot. So thank you.